We have a group of notebooks and sketchbooks in which we can really see his development as an artist, his foundation in drawing and painting, and then how he shifts to performance art. We see very simple drawings of forms. When you look at his performances in terms of the way that he holds his body, you see that echo.
The drawing is kind of giving me an idea. Drawing is a thinking tool.
The Artist Village is a very important artist collective which was founded by Tang Da Wu in 1988 and Li Wen joined a year later. The Artist Village is a very important artist collective for us to understand contemporary art in Singapore. Performance art is a vehicle that a lot of artists have used to create works that they otherwise wouldn't be able to. One reason for artists turning to performance art is censorship. Performance art is an ephemeral form that allows artists to perform impromptu at the moment, and then it doesn't have to leave traces. In 1994, the National Arts Council instituted what was a de facto ban on performance art for 10 years.
It affected the whole art scene in the sense that people who were doing performance art thereafter did not get approved. I thought there was really a discrimination of art form which should never be coming from the state.
Li Wen was very systematic in documenting his performances.
We start to take photos and record them. Then we find, hey, these things could be interesting to put together.
We have his documentation of art festivals that he's attended. And so not only are we able to study his work, but we're able to study the work of many, many performance artists. Performance art is one of those genres that until recently hasn't really been studied extensively.
All right, hi everyone. Thanks for coming. Thanks for the overwhelming response on the Sunday. We don't have enough chairs, so some of you might need to stand or sit on the floor or gather on the fringes of this hall. Those who need the chairs, kindly give them up to them. Otherwise, yeah, we'll see what works like. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, if you need a chair, kindly let us know. If you're able to stand or sit down on the sides of the hall, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Li Wen belongs to that pioneering generation of artists who first introduced contemporary art to Singapore. Together with people like Amanda Heng, Tang Da Wu, Vincent Liao, Xu Yao, for instance, they introduced installation as well as performance art to Singapore. Li Wen was probably one of the first artists in Singapore to create a video installation, so he is very pioneering in many ways. This exhibition is a survey of his work over the past few decades. It allows us to present to Singaporeans a key figure as well as key works from Singapore's artistic history. Li Wen was one of those individuals who insisted that art must be socially relevant, that art must talk about issues and things that we encounter in everyday life, that art be not just a beautiful thing that one looks at passively and you can just walk away. He really believed that art is a necessary part of life.
Li Wen has actually never been controversial. You know, he has been challenging. He challenges his audience through his artwork. He's an active blogger. If you go to his blog, you read his ideas. When he challenges the public, it is actually to engage the public into a conversation, into a discussion to find a resolution. You know, it is not challenging just for the sake of challenging or being controversial just for the sake of controversy.
I'm Li Wen. I'm having an exhibition at the Singapore Art Museum called Lucid Dreams in the Reverie of the Real. I've been using this title for my blog, and I thought it would be nice to use it for this exhibition at the same time because I've been writing and thinking about a lot of things which are kind of wrapping up what I've been doing for the last 20-30 years. I'm looking for new directions based on those experiences. Sometimes I think that I already been doing this for so many years, so I should be able to do it better. I think I'm still a beginner in many ways, because I get bored very easily, and I try to find new challenges always. To me, it's interesting to see all these works that were mostly done separately before, but now I have a chance to put them all together in one exhibition. At the same time, include some new elements as well. It's kind of interesting for me as well because I've never done that before. Over time, I realized that collaborations is something worthwhile pursuing. What we do in contemporary culture is very individualistic, and it's important to support the individualism. So the point of collaborations is to realize that we don't live alone in this world. It's important to connect with other beings with different ideas. We all have our own solo practice already, but when we get together to work together, it's something really different. It's like a new energy. I learned a lot through that. Performance art is only one of the things that I do. There's a lot of misunderstood notions about performance art. People see something somebody do as out of the ordinary and they'll say, oh, that's performance art. It results in certain kind of unnecessary restrictions in terms of bureaucracy and social controls. People start to have boundaries on what is not allowed. I never believe in censorship. I think that there should not be something like censorship at all. I've always said that the only true censor is time. But if something is really worthwhile, people will still talk about it 20 years, 30 years, 100 years. The main thing is to be good at it, I think. To be close to it in a human way, that is sincere.
My name is Lee Wen. I was born in Singapore in 1957. When I went to school, all the students called me Simon. I was known as Simon Lee Wen. In Chinese, Wen means culture actually. It means 文化. Shi Wen means a gentleman. So that's why Simon was the name of very cultured and gentleman. My father was a writer, a linguist, but never went to university. He was married to my mother and had 5 children. I was the last one. But he died when I was 3 years old. My mother always described him as a genius. He was known to write poetry, narrative writing, and documentary of his journeys. The one thing that inspired me the most was a big giant book of children's drawings and paintings. Very colorful, like from all over the world. And I looked through it like a very beautiful story of the world, I was often left alone at home because my siblings were older than me, and they went to school while I played alone with the drawings. When I started drawing those pictures, I was working in a bank. I drew the drawings without the words first. So the Sun Boy just started as the first page because it was in darkness that I suddenly come to know. Without darkness, you won't know what is brightness. Without brightness, you won't know what is darkness. So that's why some of the pages were black with white lines. I saw Tang Da Wu's first installation, Earthworks, and to walk into that gallery, wow, you can smell the earth, I told myself, this is a real art teacher. I want to study with him. When I quit my bank job, it was because I thought he was still teaching at LaSalle. When I went there was Zai Kuning, and I asked him about Dawu, and he brought me to Sembawang. Dawu was the first experimental artist that I know of in Singapore. I think he opened up my world of making image from different perspectives. When I asked Daru what is the most important things that we should learn as an artist, he talked about painting and drawing as a basic, and then comes photography, and then comes photography, filmmaking. So they are all actually image making. We never talk about performance until these four basic things. And this is the way I learned it also. I wanted to go away to get the real experience of an artist, because I felt Singapore, we don't have that kind of experience that they have. So I wanted to see what it's like living there as an artist. The school that I went to actually had very good teachers, you know. So you are seeing people who have already experienced living as an artist, and they were not just teachers, they were practicing artists. So to me that is very valuable. It was only in London that I manifested, the first one. I've organized a day of performance for my school. I decided to do the Yellow Man. I realized that in the 60s, a lot of artists from the West went into performance based on the idea of presenting the artist's body. Most of us were relating to nature as a way of presenting the self. Oh, before coming back, I actually spent 3 months in India. So I did the second Yellow Man in India before coming back, because there was riots going on. But every day at sunset, we always put down our tools because we wanted to see the beautiful red sun going down, sinking behind the fields. So I said, let's have a moment of peace where everybody was enjoying the same beauty. And that's how I came to do Journey of the Yellow Man #2, The Fire in the Sun. When I first proposed the idea to Substation, I thought performance art was still not supported. I didn't know that behind the scenes, I think they were preparing to make a change at the time. So I proposed Strange Fruit, talking about the issues of non-funding performance. Lee Wing Choi, he asked me, do you know that there is a title of a jazz song by Billie Holiday? Although I know it's a very sad story, I'm actually drawing out the pain in the tongue-in-cheek way, just like this woman, Billie Holiday. You know, she's a very beautiful woman too, but deep down inside she is feeling that pain, and I think it came out so wonderful in this song that she's remembered for that, and that's where the parallel comes in. You see, in Chinese there's a saying, 活到老学到. You live until you're old, and you study until you're old, because there's endless things to learn. There's never enough, because human mind is only as good as yesterday, in the sense that you must keep on moving in order to keep being strong.
shoreline, and the sun will respect every face on the deck. Be out that the ship comes in, and the sands will roll out a carpet of gold for your weary souls to be a touching. And the ship's wise men will remind you once again that the whole wide world is watching.
I woke up this morning and realized I was dead. I am a ghost of myself and died a long time ago. This is the end. It's past the end. I'm not real, only a ghost. But I don't really know it. Only moments like these, but all too soon, I go about as if I was still alive and place myself amidst the others. Play it like I was in their script, but I'm not actually. Because I am dead. Only a ghost in the frame of daily dramas. My shadows, only imagined ones as much as my mind and body. I am but a ghost of who I was before. The light was bright when I was just passing away. Yes, that great white light was just as it was when I was born. Was it not the same white light as I came out of my mother's womb? Pure light of love, pure energy so bright and light, almost like flying but not so. I refuse to go straight away. That's why I am here, still. You know how it is. But who am I talking to but myself? After all, I am dead. But I forget. Maybe I don't want to admit it. I am just another dissatisfied ghost of who I was before, hanging on to do what I failed to do before I died. Dissatisfied soul with an unfulfilled life. Or maybe with too many impossible dreams, over-ambitious maybe. What was it? Did it become too hard as one by one they left you while wanting? Or was it just plain forgetfulness? Or excessive temptations that led to overindulgence?
the art centers like the shopping house. Disconnected all the nature crowd. Put us back into the circus past. He's not dead. No, 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 he's not dead. Mama, I know just how you feel. That bird has left me dragging on my heels. Once the sea breeze finds its way inside my sail, then no place I can rest my tail. On my way once again, out to the open blue sea. Come next Friday, that's where I gotta be. On my way once again. I've been living my life in a well, 'cause everybody seems to have something they just wanna sell. My back's all packed, my money tied in a band. Ain't nothing I need I can carry in my hand. Once again, out to the open blue sea. Come next Friday, that's where I wanna be. On my way once again. These days only my nose can smell. Out of track of time for a while. My mind's in the pockets of the Emperor's new clothes. Sure knows it when I gotta go. On my way once again, out to the open blue sea. Come next Friday, that's where I wanna be. On my way once again.
from Li-Wen again in the middle of the memorial. We'll hear him play some music. So first, I would like to invite Jennifer Ng to come up and read what Dawu has written, followed by Jun Yap, who will then from the Singapore Museum, and then Bruce Craig from the Independent Archive. Okay. It doesn't seem to be picking me up.
Track 1, 2.
Okay. Great. Sorry, I was handed the mic as is. Could everyone hear me earlier? Okay, but just in case, for those who are online, tonight we'll hear first from Jennifer Ng, who will read a tribute by Tang Da-Wu. Then next we will hear from Jun Yap from the Singapore Art Museum. And then we'll hear from Bruce Craig from the Independent Archive.
Hi, I'm reading this on behalf of Mr. Tang Da-Wu because he cannot be here personally tonight. Right, this is what he says. Li-Wen, you came and you went, left behind a rich, rich practice of art. For us to learn and continue the journey. Li-Wen, your journey has just begun. With shoes on your back and trying to move forward with your hands and knees. Li-Wen, you are a master of performance. You made us see life. You open up paths for us. We will continue this journey. Knees, hands. Knees, hands. Da-Wu.
Hi. So I speak in the capacity of the Singapore Art Museum, but also from a curatorial capacity, from having known Li-Wen through the years. So, as you saw in the video earlier, in 2012, the Singapore Art Museum presented the exhibition Lucid Dreams in a Reverie of the Real, a solo exhibition of the artworks of Li-Wen. This exhibition was meant to survey more than 2 decades of Li-Wen's multidisciplinary career through more than 40 artworks from a practice that spanned installation, photographs, videos, documentation, and performance art. Beyond this exhibition, at the institutional level, SAM has also brought a number of Li-Wen's works into the national collection, thus recognizing the importance of his work and of his practice. These include Strange Fruit, World-Class Society, Anthropometry Revision, Yellow Period after Yves Klein, and Yellow Man, Where Are You Going? On the first page of the catalogue for the exhibition in 2012, an illustration and text was reproduced, itself published first in 1981 by Select Books in a tome titled A Waking Dream, of which the pages you saw just now. So this would have been around the time that Li-Wen joined the Chase Manhattan Bank. And this image in the front of the catalogue reproduced is of a figure, cloaked but appearing to beckon. And the text accompanying reads, "So sharing this dream, you and I, sharing this dream, you and I sharing this dream, you are the dream, I the dreamer, I am the dream, you the dreamer. So we share this dream, you or I." A Waking Dream predates Li-Wen's other publication, The Republic of Daydreams. And in their titles, the dream state, as it also does in the exhibition title, has particular significance. In describing the compilation of drawings and words, Li-Wen said of this early publication that it was of pure sincerity, based on a broken-hearted first love that never really was, my absurd dream made public. For Li Wen, the dream state may be said to characterize his art as a consciousness that the artist attempts to make real or bring into life. Yet this process is also fraught with anxieties, obstacles, limits, and lack. For the same exhibition, a number of us collaborated on an essay comprised of interconnected parts. Co-written by Adele Tan, Lee Weng Choi, Lucy Davis, Ray Langenbach, and myself, it was titled Li Wen Variations on the Exquisite Body, where besides deconstructing Li Wen's body of works, we too chose specific body parts to write about. Adele the ear, Weng Choi the liver in a reference to the utopic, Lucy the limbs or wings as their extension, Ray the spine, and myself feet in relation to performance art and the mobile body. But the point I wish to get to here is less the origins of a waking dream or the form of this essay than what this text is really about, which is the connection between individuals, between the yous and the I's, that is also characterized much of Li Wen's performance works, of negotiating, suggesting, and inviting this conversation with him even as he performed. It was in this essay that I was then to also observe of Li Wen's particular practice, that performance art is not a singular activity. It demands a community who not merely observes, but who can respond, in the same way the performance artist is ready to respond as well to the audience on hand. It is a dialogue set in motion, an artwork that completes with another. Even when he wasn't actually performing, performance or this exchange between one another was never really far away. One might then also point to the interlinked and collegial nature of performance networks in Singapore and the region. Here then I also recall my encounter of Li Wen's chewing gum paintings and how I was really fascinated by them. This series began around the time of the chewing gum ban in 1992, at which time Li Wen was based in London. The artwork was first presented at the Substation in 1999, and then at the Museum of Contemporary Arts in Sydney in 2005, in the form of unfinished canvases that required completion by the public in allowing visitors to offer their chewed gum to adorn these canvases. So I've kind of meandered in connecting a few thoughts and references, one might say, as a dream does. Yet Li Wen, even as he traversed form and subject, was certain about one thing. The dream is real, or it can be, and this is what makes it important and significant. Dear Li Wen, we will miss you, but we will also remember the dreams you've urged us to wake up to. Thanks. Bruce?
Hello. So for the past 3+ years, I've been working with Li Wen on what I consider to be one of his last major projects, the Independent Archive. However, it was not as a colleague that I first came to know him, so I'll come back to that in a bit. Among the earliest of my recollections of Li Wen was of coming across a performance of his at the Substation, Esplanade, sorry. This would have been around the time that he first received his diagnosis, and he was binding his left arm, joking with the audience about the stiffness he'd begun to feel, therefore opting to exacerbate these symptoms as part of his performance. Particularly in light of working closely with him these last few years, it's doubly affecting to have seen him refusing to bow to adversity, facing it down as part of his practice. As I came to know him over time, one thing that struck me was that despite the gulf in experience between us, he was not in the habit of talking down, of treating me as less than a peer. While this was not exactly unique, a sense of generousness and openness, it was still refreshing. One particular example of generosity that I encountered was when I was looking for work back in 2015. All I had to do was ask. And it turned out that Stephanie Burt had asked first, so rather than weighing his options, he simply took on both of us. And, working at the archive had its ups and downs. For one thing, he advocated what he called a Steinerian approach to management from the pedagogical theories of Rudolf Steiner, which informed the Waldorf School of Education. The idea was to have a flat structure of self-determining agents as opposed to a hierarchy. In actual practice was let's call it a state of perpetual surprise, good and bad alike. And part of this continuous surprise was the way others came to work with him. One day you might drop in to do some research, have a chat, maybe jam a little with the rotating cast of characters who came to see him in the archive. Then he asked for a little bit of help here and there, reposition him in his chair, fetch his stick, little things like that. You start hanging around at the archive more and more, and before you know it, you're drawing a paycheck, wondering exactly how that happened. And in that vein, he always had this tremendous facility for drawing people together. It wasn't just his enthusiasm and commitment to his art, but also a measure of some undefinable zest for life. I saw this among the Artist Village. I saw this at performances like Give Peace a Chance Redux, and I saw it day to day working at the archive. This was by no means a one-way street. In the years since Lee Wen first moved to Aliwal Street, he gradually found it to be inseparable from himself, seeing the archive and himself as deeply enmeshed in the surrounding community. Even when the troubles mounted and his friends and family urged him to let go of the space, he never relented. The archive was never just a repository of information. It was, as I mentioned, one of his last large-scale works, a site of continuous encounter that has lasted since 2012, bringing together countless voices and visions in so many unexpected ways. The work continues in some form. Hopefully it'll re-emerge in full once more.
So next we will have Sophie Goetz from the Center of Contemporary Art, Singapore, reading on behalf of Uttamattabha, followed by Adele Tan, reading a tribute by Lee Weng Choi. And no, there's one more. Hold on. Oh, and then we have Lo Eng Tiong from the NAC. So could I invite... that will happen. Yeah. It's Sophie can't make it. Okay. Could I invite the speakers to also take the stage mic so that it helps those who are seeing remotely? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. My name is Arai. From Tokyo. Stay in Tokyo. Arai Shinichi. I am bad friend of Lee Wen. Yeah, very bad. Very bad. Wife? His wife is very nice. I don't need mic. You hear my voice. Singapore guys is very crazy. Why you use mic is better. Okay. My name is Arai Shinichi from Tokyo. Bad friend of Lee Wen. I drank that.
Hi, I'm sorry. Sophie or Uta can't be here today, so I'm here to speak on behalf of, in capacity of NTU Centre of Contemporary Art Singapore. I stand here today in deep sadness before the loss of the artist and friend of NTUCCA Singapore, Lee Wen. When in 2013, NTUCCA Singapore was inaugurated, our founding director and a long-standing friend of Lee Wen, Uta Metabal, had invited him to perform at the opening of the Free Jazz program. He then became an inspiring part of CCA's early years by his uncomfortable and unconventional, not to be tied down life spirit and his criticality. At the press conference for the 5th birthday of NTUCCA Singapore last year, Lee Wen gave a very flamboyant speech on performance art and the need for adequate public support for artists. These are moments that touched us in our memories and that we will miss because he had gone and maybe had to go. NTUCCA Singapore had realized one of the big projects together with Lee Wen here in Singapore, Journey of the Yellow Man, materials from the Independent Archive in the fall of 2018, towards the end of last year, showing him the outstanding artists in his network of artists, in his unbounded joy at and with art. Since 2017, NTUCCA Singapore and the Asian Art Archive Hong Kong had been collaborating on a large-scale digitization project of the Independent Archive, of which Bruce was also part of the process. Later on, of course, at National Gallery Singapore and Singapore Art Museum joined us in our endeavour. It is our duty, and it will be our duty, not only to maintain Lee Wen's legacy of the Independent Archive, but also to make it accessible to the public. The aforementioned exhibition project made these efforts open to the public for the first time in one of Lee Wen's very last exhibitions. That's why we are showing pictures of the materials that we selected from the archive that was shown. In the process of preparing for this show, my colleagues, in particular Sophie Goetz and Ho Siwa, together with Bruce, of course, repeatedly experienced moments in which the spirit of life was clouded by pain and fatigue. In the end, however, a humorous word usually remained, or a hopeful smile. Lee Wen's performative actions became moving images of the physical body in singular or plural situations, while they embodied forms of social identity and political power. Thus, They offered readings of classification, judgment, and disassociation. Performative acting together, yet remaining individual is a central motive. Creating together a space of uncontrolled actions generated a vigor beyond physical limitations. Lee Wen's strikingly bodily expressions have not lost their tension, even when illness inscribes his appearance into his performative persona and started to transform it. After his sudden death, the body was fully loaded with everyday humor, music, stories, and memories to be shared. The incredible power of the artist to translate our time into gestures and attitudes was driving forward the medium of performance art against all resistance to cohesion. Improvisation and experimentation were key elements of his performances as well. In the later years of Lee Wen's career, in the absence of a performative body, the Independent Archive became part of his artistic collaborative practice. An institutional body, so to say, to work and share with others, but foremost to keep memories of Singapore's performance art alive. Meanwhile, Lee Wen called himself organs without body. The loading and unloading of precisely not the body, but rather its contents, was a double strategy for the artist to repeatedly elude attributive context and to show the loss of control of his own posture, as well as changing meaning, and to remain consistent. The Independent Archive for Lee Wen was a place of storytelling, of an ongoing conversation with artifacts, and thus awakened particular moments in history. In his last artistic performance, Body as Archive, held at the Centre last year, he not only inscribed memory to the performing bodies, but also to the performative objects. The red dress, a relic of past performances, was cast in ice and stood in the light as a silent witness. Beginning with the performance The Call of Red in 2013, the silk garment had since become a recurring motif in Lee Wen's works. He slipped into a red dress, morphing into his mother, expressing her longing for her deceased husband. A lifetime story full of patience and resilience. In this difficult time, our heartfelt sympathy is with his wife, Satoko, and his son, Masatoshi, as well as with his family and his longtime comrades. The art scene in Singapore has lost an important artist who stood up for the freedom of art until the very end. On behalf of Uta, Sophie, and all my colleagues at NTU Centre for Contemporary Art, Lee Wen, we thank you for all that you have shared.
I am reading this on behalf of Lee Wing Choi, the former co-artistic director of the Substation, who currently cannot be in Singapore and is in KL. I am sad that I cannot be here today. Very sad I could not come to Singapore to visit Lee Wen during his last couple of years. And of course, sad most of all about his passing. But also relieved, as I know he was suffering in the end. What I'd like to share today, however, is not about sad things. I'd like to remember Lee Wen today by celebrating his effect on those of us who wrote about his work. As you recall, Lee Wen had a major solo exhibition at the Singapore Art Museum in 2012 called Lucid Dreams in the Reverie of the Real. 5 of us, Adele, Lucy Davis, Ray Langenbach, Jun Yap and I, were invited to contribute to the catalogue. At first, we each began in the usual way, planning our respective contributions as individual essays. However, as we talked amongst ourselves, the prospect of writing collaboratively was raised, and we all took to the idea. It made sense, given the subject matter. How should one tell a story about Lee Wen and his art? Well, certainly not in any conventional way. And so, we devised to write not so much a group essay, but a series of interconnecting texts as a group. This more collaborative dialogical, experimental, and playful form of writing we felt was an appropriate way to embody the collaborative, dialogical, experimental, and playful ethos of Lee Wen's art. We each chose to discuss specific aspects and themes in Lee Wen's body of work, but as a way of organizing our project, we also chose a specific part of the body as well. Anatomy has figured centrally in Lee Wen's practice, and taking on these separate organs was, for us at any rate, a useful way of approaching and making sense of the artist's oeuvre. Our choices were far from comprehensive or obvious. For instance, we've left out the heart and the head. Adele chose to speak about the ear. For Lucy, it was kind of limb, wings. Ray spoke about the spine, and June, the feet, while I was concerned with the liver. Other parts get a mention here and there, such as the skin, mouth, and eyes. Lee Wen inspired us to engage his work not just in terms of the substance of our writing, but in the very form of our engagements. I am grateful to Lee Wen for his inspiration. Thank you, Adele, for reading these few words, and thank you again, Lee Wen.
Go to the first slide. You know, an eccentric Japanese inventor once said, "Life should be long, and speeches must be short." In many ways, and perhaps in a kind of selfish sort of way, I wish Lee Wen to have many more years. But especially in the last few months, it pains most of us to see him at times so trapped in that physical self, which used to be his most powerful weapon of expression. He just has so much more to give, so many more ideas to experiment, so many more dreams to fulfill. Many of us who have had the good fortune to know him and be touched by his generosity of spirit, his relentless passion in his pursuit of art, and of course, his boundless energy and quirky humor. Lee Wen believes that art must connect with the people, neither elitists nor purists. And even if it means using humor to get people to open up to new ideas and perspective, and to what the artist has to say. And art for him is a way to deal with the complexities of the world, the ambiguities of human nature, and above all, to reconcile the dichotomies or contradictions in life, which at times, and especially so in the world that we live in now, opposing tensions that constantly threaten to pull humanity apart. Here's a short video which I feel he sums up really beautifully.
My name is Lee Wen. I'm an artist working primarily in performance art and installation and mixed media. I'm not a purist in any way. I'm quite eclectic in that sense that I'm able to reach out to the audience in terms of making it more entertaining, and sometimes laughter is the best way to make people think about things rather than making it a very serious performance. I kind of always think about balancing my work between different possibilities of the human nature. My philosophy in life is that, in terms of art making, you deal with a lot of contradictions, and I'm always searching for that possibility to reconcile those contradictions.
I would miss talking and listening to Lee Wen a lot. Sometimes back in one of the visits I made to 67 Aliwal, I saw a styrofoam lunch box hanging by the metal gate. Lee Wen asked that I brought it in and said that it was lunch delivered by a welfare NGO. Lee Wen wasn't quite well then, but as he ate, and it's just a very simple white rice with kind of 2 dishes. All he was concerned was about the archive, what he wanted to do, where he wanted to take them, asking how to register the archive, how to raise funds, how to convince sponsors, and so on and so forth. He could not care less what he was eating and how he was feeling at that time, but just so consumed with what he wanted to do more for art. As an artist, he is fearless in defending his ideals on what art should be and can be. But he's also a pragmatist. He has understood that for art to do what it does best, he has to be part of society, and at times the need to operate within part of the system. And any opportunity that could help to advocate the cause for society to appreciate and recognize the value of art, he was prepared to seize the moment to do so. Even if the recognition was for his own achievement, Lee Wen never saw it as such. It was always about advancing the art which he strongly believes in. So when he was conferred the Cultural Medallion in 2005, he saw it not so much as a recognition of his artistic achievement, but more as an acceptance of an art form and practice that was so much misunderstood and marginalized in the decade before. And Lee Wen used his entire speech to acknowledge and affirm all the artists and arts groups that he had worked with, all who became so important to him. He may be larger than life, but he sees himself very much as a member of a cause, laboring for it to be recognized, appreciated, and valued. In the speech, we see both sides of Lee Wen, playful yet serious, direct yet circumspect, but never compromising on his ideals. Let's just relive a little bit what he has said then.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, may I invite Minister up on stage to present the Cultural Medallion to Mr. Lee Wen. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause. Thank you, Minister, sir.
I guess I'll drop the spontaneity and read my prepared speech instead. When it was announced that I was going to win the award, there's all kinds of puzzling responses. Some people say, "How come?" And some people say, "Oh, it's the death sentence for an artist." And my mother said, "Giặc cái kim quê bồ lui lại cho ni à." But this award is for me a sign of the change of the times, and hopefully it is for the better. 10 years ago, it would be unimaginable that an artist who does the kind of work that I do can be standing here tonight. And I hope that by accepting this award, there would be more recognition given to those who dare to step out of the accepted or perceived norm of what constitutes cultural work, and to those who strive to be the creative genius which is in all of us, without submitting to the pressures and tyranny of outmoded status quo. Such an endeavor is never a solitary journey. I have been blessed with a good, supportive family, as well as friends and colleagues, especially to those in the arts community, both local and international. I would like to thank especially the members of the Artist Village, and also especially to Mr. Tang Da Wu, my mentor and friend, Ms. Amanda Heng, Mr. Vincent Liao, and also artists from P10 and PKW, and especially staff of the substation, and Mr. Lee Weng Choi, the director, who has very much supported me over the years, and also Audrey Wong, the co-director of Substation, and also friends from Theatre Works, TNS, Spell 7, and the international art group Black Market International, whom I have been working with since the year 2000, and also artists from Tokyo in Command N, and other artists from the International Performance Art Network who have supported me over the years. Many of whom I believe had done good work over the years and may even deserve more than me in receiving such an award. So, how come? Well, anyway, most of all, I would like to thank my wife, Satoko, who saw me through my darkest hour, and thank you to the National Arts Council and all those who are working in the cultural arena. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lisa, a very daring man.
Finally, to Satoko, not only have you walked the darkest hours with Lee Wen, you have journeyed with him till the very end. The journey of the Yellow Man may have ended here, but I believe his work, his ideas, and his spirit, which he has left with us, will always continue to inspire, to evoke, and to help us dream for a better world that he loves. We'll miss him. Thank you.
So Lisa Horikawa will now read a tribute from the Fukuoka Art Museum as well as other friends from Japan, and will followed by a short musical excerpt from Lee Wen himself.
I received 3 eulogies from Japan. First one comes from Fukuoka Asian Art Museum. Lee Wen, we're very saddened by hearing the sudden loss of you. We remember your impressive 5-day performance at the 4th Asian Art Show at Fukuoka Art Museum 1994 and the performance at the Fukuoka Asian Art Museum's first year anniversary in 2000. Your latest performance at the Sunshower Exhibition 2017 at our museum left a strong and lasting memory in everyone who encountered it. You've also contributed to the art exchange between Fukuoka and Singapore by building friendship not only with the museum staff but of course also with many Fukuoka-based artists. It's difficult to accept that we will not see you again. Your contribution to the development and recognition of contemporary art in Asia will forever be remembered. We would like to share the delightful memories and your smile with everyone at the memorial. Thank you and rest in peace, Lee Wen, your family, your Fukuoka Asian Art Museum family. Second one comes from Takeya Daisuke, who's an artist and is executive director of shown here. Dear Master Lee Wen, beyond words, you have been an inspiration to many of us. I recall the details in your conversations, your particularity, passion, and sense of humor. You have been accepted as seeds of courageous. You have been a true fighter, always remembered, and will carry on your challenges. Okay, and lastly, the eulogy from Seiji Shimoda, NIPAF. Lee Wen, you were the first artist to come to NIPAF from Southeast Asia. It was the second Nippon International Performance Art Festival in 1995. I had sought an advice from Kuroja Raiji of Fukuoka about who to invite for this. He told me Tandau was staying in Tokyo after finishing his work in Fukuoka, so I visited Dau in his hotel to invite him to NIPAF. But Dau said, I've been to Japan many times. It's better to invite someone younger. So he suggested your name. That's how I met you for the first time at the festival. You said you will not be staying in a hotel we had arranged for you, preferring to stay instead with your girlfriend then. Because of that, we didn't get a chance to talk much until the day of the festival itself, or the rehearsal. The sheet of ice you requested arrived from the ice shop. I think the fan you requested was brought in from the home of one of our staff in Tokyo. And there it was, your performance, Ghost Story, in Tokyo and Nagano. The morning after the end of NIPAF in Nagano, I remember your girlfriend from Tokyo came a long way to pick up the props you had used in your performance, like the futon. She said she still needed the futon for use. And yes, that was Satoko-san, whom we married. Nipaf has always and continues to be filled with heat and excitement today. In Nagano, where I was born and continue to live, there is a local festival called Onbashira, a festival dedicated to a huge honored tree pillar. A large tree, so big that it's seemingly impossible to move, is cut down from the forest, and drawn by lots of people together, the tree is rolled down on a slope to be finally erected high in front of a shrine. This festival takes place every 7 years. People of the community prepare for this festival in the cycle of their everyday life. I imagine such a festival exists in many places around the world. When I started Nipaf in 1993, it was only in Nagano. In fact, N for Nipaf used to stand for Nagano, not Nippon. My father had passed away in 1992, and after I came back from Tokyo to Nagano to take care of the ceremony that marked 49th day after his passing, I met a young female curator working at a local museum. Listening to her complain about her work, I had this urge to introduce artists from all over the world to her. Very few people know this, but I started Nipaf for my father who was poor but lived an honest life, and for this lady. I thought of doing something seemingly impossible to do, a challenge in a provincial town where no one cared or paid attention to art, let alone performance art, a void path that my father once walked upon or rode in his bicycle was now filled by artists from all around the world. Seeing that filled the void in my heart. Li Wen, thanks to you coming to Nipaf, I became more interested in Southeast Asia and visited many countries in the region with the hope of promoting performance art. Today, many countries have started their own festivals. Kuroda Raiji of Fukuoka Asian Art Museum, in his eulogy he posted on the museum's website, he wrote, "I dare say Li Wen was amongst the artists who helped construct the heroic age of Asian art." I personally feel fortunate to have been born to the desolate and barren state of Japanese art after the end of its own heroic age, which led me to get to meet you. As I write this, we're in the midst of the 24th Nipaf. We spent 4 days in Tokyo, followed by Kyoto, and now in Osaka. Tonight, I shall take a night bus back to Nagano. At every site we stopped on this journey, I printed a photo of your ghost story and pasted on the wall where the performance can be seen. Everyone knows you. Amongst the Nipaf 1995 cohort, Marcos Cruces from Mexico and Kazakura Sho of Neo-Dada are already in heaven, and as well as many others who participated in Nipaf, and more will follow. Shall we do Nipaf in heaven? Please participate, Li Wen. Thank you.
Sliders, no shirt as I hit the sack for bed. But now I'm flying, soaring across the clear blue skies, not stopping to wonder why I was really born to die. Shoot down Plaza Singapore like a bird of prey. All the people stood and stared. God, it looks so sad down there. Say, look at me, I'm flying, soaring across stopping to wonder why we're born merely to die. No, not merely to die. Offering lessons to anyone who even dare to try. I say, hey, you can fly if you really try. Just spread your wings and fly across the sky. We're born not just merely to die. Someone stood up, started talking like he was God or Christ, condemning me, says the devil is he, make me wanna stop and cry. But I was flying, yeah, I was flying, flying across the sky. Not stopping to wonder why we're put here just merely to die. No, not just to die. You can fly if you really try. And I was flying, I was just flying. Just flying across the sky, not stopping to wonder why.
Satoko, can I invite you to... You wanna... Can walk up, yes. Do you wanna go up to the stage? It's right behind.
Good evening. I am a wife of Li Wen, and I want to show you some family life in Japan, because his life is very different in Japan. The early days. This is not Japanese life, but I show you some first early days. today I went to IA, I saw this box. This is the box I pick up, Lee Wen and I pick up from the road, and somebody throw away, and we found it, and we say, let's bring it home, and we walk and we brought it home. And I feel the photograph I show tonight is all inside this box. I feel like that. And this is in Salita. This is a banana flower petal he was wearing, and we had a lot of fun in Salita camp. It was a very big house, and Vincent Liao and Jason Ling, Lee Wen used to live together, and I was a girlfriend, and every once in a while visiting his house and having a lot of interesting things. And he asked me to make sculpture of him in some kind of department store, and he wanted me to get involved in the art scene in Singapore, but suddenly like this. But I was not really doing art as an artist. He wanted me to do something in Singapore. This is my garden with our child Masatoshi, and this is the house we used to live. He is just a father in Japan, and he wasn't really artist in the house. We lead a really simple Japanese family life in Japan. And this is in the backside in the sky there is a fish. It's called koi nobori. Koi is the fish, and nobori is going up. And Lee Wen always talk about making Malayan nobori. Like this. I think he made Malayan nobori, and it's somewhere, I don't know where, but he said he made it. He always wanted to make Malayan nobori. This is my son's entering day for kindergarten. And this is, it says Lee Wen, he wrote Lee Wen face. And I had many different kinds of fruits and vegetables in the garden. The garden was not so big, but I was growing many different kinds of things and making juice from the harvest. And we always eat lunch and dinner in a small garden. And this is not in Japan, this is in Singapore, because I always refused to come and live in Singapore. So he wanted to show me that there is an organic farm in Singapore. This is I take the photograph in the organic farm in Singapore. This is something which make the water go around and make, I don't know what is the function, but this is something to do with water. Is there somebody who knows about this? This is in Singapore, which was in organic farm. He really liked the flower. This flower is called plum flower, ume flower. It's a plum. It gives very good fragrance. He really loves this flower. This is the day of the Cultural Mandarin Day. We sometimes come to Singapore, but not very often. Only comes very few times. And Lee Wen likes this photograph so much. He wanted to use this as a poster for Performance Art Festival or something, but I don't think he used it. This is Lee Wen's mother. This is Japanese way of bath. At first, he really hated to take hot baths, but at the end, he really loves to take hot baths. This is in Singapore. He really enjoyed staying in Japan. This is Sakura. Some my workshop he helped me. When we come to Singapore, we like to go to Jungle Walk because I like nature very much. This is Li Wen's desk or workroom in Japan. This is a house. This from my garden. And in 2010, I asked my parents to come to live with us because my mother started to have dementia. And Li Wen was doing exercise with my father. This is a carport. I show this photograph because my life in Japan is very different from Li Wen's life in Singapore. I like to make vegetables and just my life was not really artistic. It's just a normal life. And Li Wen was a very good father. But I sound. And Li Wen also liked to visit mountain in Japan. Because I use fertilizer from waste food, the harvest is very rich, and he really likes that. And at night he liked to read outside. Sometimes his friend from different country visit my house. This is from 3331. And we really like to go to Pulau Ubin when we visit Singapore. So that's why Li Wen started to do artist in residency in Pulau Ubin. He said if he start to do that, maybe I will come to Singapore more often or even live in Singapore. But I just couldn't decide to come to live in Singapore because I had my parents to take care. This is going to Pulau Ubin. This is my house in Japan. This is my mother, because my mother was very, very ill, and my father has no friend in Tokyo because I bring my both parents to my house when they are already very old. It's very difficult to make friends, and my mother cannot speak and cannot eat by herself. And if I send my mother to a nursing home, my father become very alone, and I even if I wanted to live in Singapore, I couldn't come
And my and when Diwen was in the hospital, only thing I told to Diwen many times was, I'm sorry. But Diwen said he forgave me for everything before he died. And this is my son. He is walking in Japan, walking by foot to go around Japan. And I feel Diwen gave me a lot of joy. He showed me many different side of the world. He always go around the world and he comes back and he always like to tell stories about what's happening in the world, and I enjoy that very much. And something like sickness or death or losing job or something like that, we cannot help if something happens, but only in art you can freely express yourself. There is a freedom in art, and that is what I think Li Wen told me. And the performance he did, what is the art really necessary? Is art necessary, this performance? I feel that art is really necessary. And he gave me a question, what is really art for? And I thank you very much for holding this event for Li Wen. Li Wen used to tell me a lot of things, but I hear in one word is always coming back to my head. It's he always like to say support. He want to support someone. He want to support something. He always say something. He always say he want to support. I feel that he was the person he wanted to support people, but at the end I feel it is people who are supporting Li Wen. Thank you very much.
Next we have Kai Lam who will speak on behalf of the Black Market International, but also the Artist Village. And is your Hong Kong friends here?
Yes.
And also Li Wen's Hong Kong friends will be here to speak with Kai.
Okay, this is from the Black Market International. Hang on. So here is the first verse of his song. Him not dead, him in the air I breathe, in the water I drink, on the ground I walk, and the trees that sheltered us. This is a single voice from the Black Market International. In 1995, in Nagano, Li Wen, with his slightly crooked body, entered the room in his underwear, carrying a mattress on his back. The mattress was covered with red roses. The thorns pricked his back. He shouted, "I want to live! I want to live, and I want to live." His voice, clear and resolute, expressed the torment, the courage, and the craving for life. He was real. The rest is history. Everybody, the soundtrack of our performance in Glasgow resonates throughout the hall. You had a knack for picking up the situation during the low, dragging moments of a dead calm in a black market performance. And your voice seemed to hold us together, create energy for all of us. We share so much for decades, time and space, conflicts and exchanges, new ideas and love. Dear Lee Wen, I don't know what to write. Everybody is no longer everybody. We lost you, dear friend. You were a friend and a collaborator, but above all, a human being, full of warmth and humor, of integrity and truth. We laughed with you, speaking with you was always brilliantly challenging. Seeing you perform was a tremendous delight. When we last met, your body was already getting weaker and weaker, but your mind and your dedication to art were never idle. You will be sorely missed. Everybody, the sound of your voice will linger in our hearts. And if we hear a strange croaking rumble up above our heads and there's no airplane to be seen, then we will know it's you peacefully snoring in the Republic of Daydreams. Just play your anyhow blues for the harp players up there, and of course for Norbert Clausen. So goodbye, Mr. Lee Wen. Take care of your head and rest your weary feet. And then there were 10. P.S. Don't forget to feed the monkeys. Okay, this is for boom bala boom bam. Okay, so anyway, this one is coming from the Artist Village to a prophet of harmonica. The first time I met Lee Wen was through AGA, and my first contact through Lee Wen was the Artist Village under the invitation of Tang Da Wu, who got me involved with social, with what's that project? Sorry. Sculpture Seminar 2. And that was before AGA. And after AGA, I got to know Lee Wen more, and we start to organize projects from the Future of Imagination to Rights Project, right up until IA. Our philosophy is, in art there is no ownership. In art, what we have is only each other. We support each other, and there is no ownership. Why there is no ownership is because we love to share what we know. Like what he said, learning is a lifetime of possibilities. And so I would like to also invite Wen Yao and Shaiful Risan in this Artist Village eulogy, because there is no ownership, to come up here to speak with us, to speak to us. Yeah, maybe Wen Yao. Yeah.
I wrote a letter to Lee Wen. Dear Lee Wen, how are you? It seems long since we have seen each other, but every time we met, we were like long-lost friends, having deep conversations. Do you still remember back in 2004 when you traveled to Glasgow for the National Review of Live Art? There was a young and naive girl holding up a paper with your name on it, waiting for you at the airport. It was me working as the festival coordinator then. Having just started my live art practice, and having such a privilege to meet you, touching share, and questionnaire at the festival. Since then, we became sincere friends who didn't see each other very often, but had some very special heart-to-heart connection. You all were very kind and generous to me, who was just a little girl then. You gave me a lot of critical advices on practicing performance art. You gave me some music you used in your performance. You gave me a lead to Xi Yang, who organized a festival in Beijing that summer, which opened a gateway for me to the world of performance art. From that on, our paths crossed in different places: Beijing, Tokyo, Singapore, Macau, Hong Kong, Guangzhou, Taiwan, etc. We did performances, we ate, we drank and got drunk, and sometimes we quarreled, sometimes we make jokes and laughter. But most importantly, you always show your care and criticality about art and performances. Sometimes I did feel annoyed by your talkativeness and outspokenness. But then I often realized immediately that you were indeed sharply pointing at the problem of some issues that we have taken for granted. My annoyance was indeed a fear of being challenged. I still remember last time we met in Taichung when you were setting up your work ping pong go-around at the National Taiwan Museum of Fine Art, and I ran to see you before a symposium in Taipei. You were so excited and hugged me so hard. We played ping pong and we chatted for an afternoon. You told me you appreciate my work and encouraged me to make it even better. Be good and challenge yourself, you told me. I was so moved by your words and our encounter. Thank you, Li Wen, for your friendship, your strength, your care, your encouragement, your outspokenness, and your generosity. You taught me how to be a good artist, and most importantly, to be a good person. Whenever I want to give up, you would give me a friendly and critical reminder. I was indeed very saddened by your passing, but at the same time, I was so touched and inspired by the fact that you were respected, remembered, and beloved by so many of us. I believe that your spirit is always with us. May all be good and challenge ourselves, all of our difference. Wen Yao.
Hi, my name is Shaiful Pang, independent creative and also former secretary of IA. My first encounter with Li Wen was quite comical. I was at a house summit. If some of you know, I'm very attached to the substation. So the substation sent me to this arts management camp called the House Summit in Sentosa. That was the first time I met the whole bunch of the people from the artist village. One of them was Li Wen. When I heard he was coming, I'm like, wow, superstar, this guy. No, I've read a lot about him, and the first thing he said to me was, I need to shit. And yeah lah, that's why he was hurried lah. That was the first time I met Kai as well. So as some kind of chaperone and participant of House Summit, I showed him to the toilet. And when he was taking a shit, we had our first conversation. because they were calling him and, hey, we need Lee Wen. I'm like, Mr. Lee, you shitting they want you over at the pavilion in Sentosa. And that's how I met him lah. And I already knew his status as a very important performance artist. And I was very happy at how real he was. This also was transposed in our time in IA, the old 67 Aliwal. So I was there doing my work, and these two dodgy guys just stepped in. Malay guy with dreadlocks and Indian guy holding a keyboard, obviously policemen lah, you know. Because the punks were always gathering at IA, so they thought something was up. Nothing was up. We were just a strange bunch of people hanging out. But what struck me about Lee Wen, he came in, this is his welcoming side. Oh, your friends, give them some tea. Like, Mr. Lee, they're not my friends. Oh, okay, and he brought them out and he sussed them out, as I did straight away, that they could be undercover cops, and they were, because they left IA, one went left, one went right. Stupid lah, but whatever. But we did not even speak about it. I think what makes us very connected was we never needed to speak about how we were like, but how we were different. We had a lot of very real moments lah, like, you know, speaking halfway and then doing something else, shouting at each other. And we transferred that energy in the hospital visits, of course. And, you know, I would always come in and say, hey, you want a cigarette? You know, just to piss him off. But I think that was the whole relationship lah. And when I was doing guard duty at the wake, it was quite an experience as well. It was almost celestial. There was a huge takeaway because I could see and radiate, and I thank all of you for this. You showed him love, you showed him how much you treasured him, and the whole thing was just good energy for me. So, Mr. Lee, continue your journey as a yellow man, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Last word from Lee Wen's intention is to initiate, to accentuate, and interrogate.
So Eugene Tan from the National Gallery cannot be here today, so Russell Storer will read on his behalf, after which we will have John Tain from the Asian Art Archive giving a few words.
Outspoken. Sorry. Can you? Thank you. Thank you. No, that's good. Thank you. Thanks. Outspoken, critical, a thinker, a dreamer, and yes, also hip. These are some of the many words that have been used to describe Lee Wen when he left us for a better world. These words also describe a pioneering artist who expanded the boundaries and possibilities of performance art, often with his peers from the artist village, but also with the many other artists whom he collaborated with across many different disciplines. Collaboration was always crucial to Lee Wen's work. As he said, "We do not live alone in this world. It is important to connect with other beings with different ideas. We all have our own solo practices already, but when we get together, it is something really different, like a new energy. I learned a lot through them." This spirit of collaboration underpinned the social impulse that infuses all of Lee Wen's work, which went beyond his own practice to encompass facilitation, advocacy, activism and mentorship, supporting others, sharing knowledge, and arguing for recognition and change. Lee Wen was never afraid to take the lead in championing performance art, not only in Singapore, but all over the world. In 2003, he spearheaded the launch of Future of Imagination, or FOI, a recurring multi-platform event that examined performance and time-based practices for over a decade, promoting visibility and deepening understanding of this medium. The Independent Archive, which he inaugurated in 2012, is an important repository of performance art practice, a testament to Lee Wen's commitment to recording, building, and disseminating knowledge in the field. Lee Wen was deeply embedded in Singapore's cultural scene, the centre of a constellation, working with countless artists, musicians, curators and writers over more than 3 decades, and of course so many of you are here tonight. Within the gallery alone, so many of us had the fortune to work with Lee Wen at some point in our personal and professional journeys. To name just a few, Seng Yu Jin co-curated the Artist Village 20 years on at the Singapore Art Museum with Michelle Ho and TAV, for which Lee Wen co-edited the catalogue with Kwok Kian Woon. Adele, as you've heard before, co-wrote an essay for Lee Wen's survey exhibition at SAM and edited the publication for FOI 5. Russell Storer invited Lee Wen to Sydney in 2005 for the exhibition Situation at the Museum of Contemporary Art, along with other members of TAV. Suen and Vanini worked with him to develop 5 major installations as part of our Children's Festival in 2018. Charmaine worked with Lee Wen on acquisitions of artworks and performance documentation for the National Collection and the Gallery Resource Centre, while Farah worked with him on the digitisation of Independent Archives materials for the Resource Centre, in collaboration with Asia Art Archive and the CCA. Lee Wen's Journey of a Yellow Man, Multiculturalism, has been a key feature of the gallery's permanent exhibition since it opened in 2015. This is a seminal performance work that we felt could not be excluded from any history of contemporary art in Singapore. It epitomises Lee Wen's provocative use of the yellow man persona to playfully question complex issues around ethnicity, cultural stereotypes and identity that is read differently according to its location. But the work also talks about the precarious and marginalised position of performance art within Singapore's cultural landscape. The gallery's final engagement with Lee Wen was the commission of A Waking Dream, Sun Boy and Yellow Man, for the Children's Festival last year. Children and families were introduced to Lee Wen's life and ideas through music, illustration, and interactive installations inspired by his Journey of a Yellow Man works and his book A Waking Dream. But perhaps most importantly, they are invited into Lee Wen's world to dream big, be bold, remain ever curious, and let imagination take flight. These are the values that Lee Wen held dear throughout his life, which are now shared with a new generation of Singaporeans. Lee Wen epitomised the important role that artists play in society and set a standard for those who see their purpose as trying to improve that society through their work. This is the reason why we do what we do at the gallery as well. So for those of us who are fortunate enough to have been touched by Lee Wen as an artist, teacher, writer, musician, husband, father and friend, his dream journeys filled with courage, generosity and wonder will continue with every one of us. Thank you.
Hi, thank you all for holding this memorial, and I'm very glad to be able to make it. I'm John Tain from Asia Art Archive. I want to give my thanks to everyone here who has spoken and who was involved in the organization of this. It's been deeply moving to see the outpouring of love and respect from the people that Lee Wen supported and mentored, was colleagues with, co-workers with, and also friends and family with. I personally never had the good fortune of having had such a close relationship with him as many of you enjoyed. But I nevertheless count myself lucky to have had the chance to meet him while he was still in relative good health during the Singapore Biennale a few years ago. Although at that point, I remember his hands were already unsteady as he worked with the leaves. even that brief first encounter with him was enough to impress on me his fierce personality and intellect and the irrepressibility of his sense of humor, but also the single-mindedness of the attachment to performance, and as well as the impact that he had on an entire generations of younger artists here in Singapore and on the development of contemporary art here. I think that was one of the reasons why when I joined Asia Art Archive a little over a year ago, I was so excited by the idea that AAA had been invited by NTU CCA to work on the digitization of Lee Wen's archive, because it seemed like it was such an important contribution to make to everyone, to make this archive available and to make that history and those stories available to a larger public. And of course, AA agreed, not just because it had worked with Lee Wen in 2010, for instance, when it invited him to Action Script, a symposium on performance art in Asia, but also because of its own work with people like Ray Langbach and Lee Wen Choi, who knew Lee Wen very well and were very familiar with him, and with Wen Yao, who also was very familiar with him. And for those reasons, I think it very much agreed with the importance and necessity of digitizing the archive. And at this point, the first part of the archive is now available on Asia Art Archive's website, and people are free to browse much of it. So this includes all of the work that Lee Wen personally did, his artwork, but also much of the festivals that he was involved with. And so there's documentation and material related to that. In addition to that, AA had been planning and with Lee Wen 2 projects, one of them an exhibition of his sketchbooks and notebooks, which unfortunately opened after his passing. This past week, the exhibition Form, Color, Action, highlighting some of the sketchbooks and including many of them, is available and on view at Asia Art Archive in the library space. And then in a few weeks, we have another small exhibition called The Body Collective Performing Arts Histories, which will feature highlights from the archive at Asia Art Archive's booth during Art Basel Hong Kong. So in those ways, AA is trying to continue the legacy and make aware those histories and stories that were such an important signal part of his contribution, because it goes beyond just the artworks that he made, which are on view here in Singapore, but also beyond. And I just want to conclude with one anecdote, which is that in the process of looking through the archive, I came across a video that Lee Wen had made, or that was of Lee Wen with another artist named James Luna, who probably is not so familiar to most of you, because James Luna was an artist who was based in Southern California, which is where I'm from. And Luna himself was half Native American and half Mexican. And they were both, Lee Wen and Luna, in residence in Japan, which is how they got to know each other. And the video kind of shows the connection that the two of them could have, the artistic but also personal conversations and connection that they made. And I've been thinking about that video because I think it really embodied who Lee Wen was, an artist, a person who was just not just important to the people in this room and to Singapore, but really to the larger world of artists. And he was an ambassador, not just for his own work, but also for performance as a genre for contemporary art. And I think that for all those reasons, it's been such an honor and privilege for AA to work on making that resource, his archive, available as a resource for everyone. And I think I'm not alone in saying that I think we deeply, deeply miss him on behalf of everyone at AA. Thank you.
So, I had written a book for Lee Wen, partly preparing myself for a moment like this. And actually, when a moment like this came, I'm actually really not ready. Lee Wen's last words to me was to come tomorrow and read my poems. And at the time, actually, he couldn't speak very much. So he said, R-E-A-D, your poems. And Lee Wen being Lee Wen, he stuck out his tongue at me. But that tomorrow never actually come. So if you allow, I'm gonna imagine that you're not here, and that this is tomorrow, and I'm gonna read for Lee Wen. Can you meet me to talk wherever you like? That morning, the viscous night clung like water when my lips closed too late while swimming, the sea spilling in with air, a fear of the deep, twinned with the fear of breathing. I laid in bed, with salt crusting my lip. You walked into Wheelock, black shirt tucked under a belted waist pouch, holding pills and a phone, smelling of yoyoba and sandalwood. I don't know, but it's Ayurvedic. A man's oiled hands with the promise to heal. We talked troubles, treatments, melodies. The meow speaks of a myth, of a sun afraid of the sky, until a rooster sang him away out of the hills. Enough, I feel better than yesterday. Next time, how? The phone chimed. Time for lunch. Mets. His ringtone I recognized is waves. You rose while I think of where to find some food from the middle of water in the middle of steep hills. I sat, listening for a crow. Do you not know, my friend, each of us is a dark mystery. The father died last year. The central field turned into a wayward maze. Next January, my father will be confirmed dying. The trampled field. Wing's father has been dying for 20, but still the field touched the moon. Last year, my father was lost in that field, and I was not there. I was. If not for him, are you the one who steals sleep, or the one who pushes it? He who hides the thin red clue, or all there is of the most real? In the field, I curl up, all 8 of my limbs, turn on my back, fearful. Best laid plans. A 7 a.m. breakfast near the sandy beach. Now 9 a.m. Now never. You think you want to go home when you cannot stand, yet here you are in the ambassador's peach and cream living room, swinging your blue crutch, singing Purple Rain. You are broke and you need my help with the asking. You want your negatives back. A year on, you want your negatives back. You want a kopi C, but for the fear of wetting yourself, you stayed in. This is your first kopi in 6 days. Let's get kopi again next week. Benediction for Makun. May you understand more than I have or will that I never. May I then accept the atmosphere of a wide and gracious silence. May I cast the box upon the waters with force enough to sail it, knowing that after many days I will find it back, empty and ready. May I lie like a door in its frame, lie unconsoled, close to visitors. May you attach no anchor. Remember me as little as I, you. The last time I saw you, you sat nose to knee in your frame with the pail, arms pressed on the rail like 2 snuff sticks. Can't climb off, you said. Afraid I'll tip. The first time I saw you, you and Jason Lim knocked a few back, red as plastic cups, at the gallery opening. You insulting your friends with a sound halfway between a ruthless trouble and defeat. You knew then the now, your strong bits exposed when I set you up, pens handcuffing your ankles, brown stains, paper crumbs when I picked them. It's only kopi, you said. Sure. Or my wish you didn't, the one for a grace cleaved from a full stone, the chase of a babbling rhyme, and the giving up of. Harsh as a blade, hammered against stone, your laugh, costly layered steel, separating breath from tasteless air. The unknowing gardens from the vast, wild, here we are. Will be epic. This is the story of a man who met his wife on one and left her for another island, of performance, of how he met Kai, Zai, stepping out together without dancing. It isn't about the son searching for news, it's about funding. Isn't any one son through though no one speaks English, of how she loved the woods, waits, their house draining into the delta. But she is no penny and I am no nester. The errant coast only the near side of a slim river. The story may take one more year, or if a return, circling, exile, cloaked in a pelt rubbed bare, is planned. Story is how art always in his picture, like an address on an envelope, as though there are promises kept. It's about bands and empty theaters, fields. Isn't this the story of O, his guitar, the orphan, off-key, down hellwards, turning back once more, losing? Isn't this it, a poor dream or praying words? The end, a shaking reaching into bone, then mud, then stone. Much yet unsaid. More please. This is only the beginning. So thank you all for coming to the memorial today. Thank you for the memories that you shared. Thank you for bringing him back for me and for countless others in this room. There's still food left. There's a donation box that will help cover some of the costs of today's event. And also we will be given also to Satoko and Makun at the end, whatever's left. And please stay and share more stories. Thank you for coming.
think at some point in time, then after that, I realized that there was another kind of, this was by Yeah, I really have no idea. But I think most of the time sounds okay. So I want to go and say hi to the leftover people. Yeah, hold on.
Alright, anyway. Who are those blurry guys?
A bit numb. Not quite as young as you used to be. 55. Still, I mean, hopefully not 55 with it. Right. What do you think? Huh? The stuff is still in. I have a Khatibukit, and then one rented place in Selangor that is still chasing for me for rental. Because rentals are monthly rates, like our income is not monthly. So sometimes I don't want to take this call, going through 3 calls. That's more fun. 5. Yeah. I'll after lunch. Anyway, my sister helped him. He's a PR. My sister helped him in early days of Singapore. Nothing private here, Lillian. Hey guys, thank you very much again for watching. So you can hang around here and listen to me packing up stuff, or you can log off now. Even if I have the Tokyo Biennale, there's a balance of 2005 from ABC. I sent a report Christmas Eve. And then I chased them 2 months later, and then they say, okay, they're busy. And now they say, where are the receipts? Then I say, no, there's no receipt because there's, the amount they give me, it's flat fee. No, it's below 20k, you don't need receipt. Right. Then I told Income about it. Income said, maybe it's sort of a kind of selected kind of check. Then why check me? Shit. Anyway, I have my receipt and all before the Chinese New Year, I have everything. because I submitted mine Christmas Eve. Then New Year come, I keep everything. Now I'm busy with something, so I just need to pick up this phone.
Welcome, Mike. Okay, I'm gonna end the stream now. Thank you all again. Have a good night from Singapore.